I'm Charlie Cannon, and I'm here with Partly Sunny, which is a design showcase developed by the Rhode Island School of Design. We're here at the Denver Pavilions in downtown Denver as part of Dialogue City, which is the public program that's been put on by the City of Denver on the occasion of the Democratic National Convention.
And so tell me what Partly Sunny is.
Partly Sunny is a showcase of designs from around the world. We have 36 different kinds of design projects and initiatives that each demonstrate what individuals, citizens, corporations, and communities are doing to address the challenges of climate change.
And can you give a few examples of what some of those projects are?
Sure. The projects range quite dramatically in scale from small things like Fritz Haig's Edible Estates project, which converts people's front yards into green gardens, green grocer gardens, to produce their own food at that sort of small scale. In the intermediate range, it includes things like the Denver Light Rail program. Denver has an incredible public transportation program that we were happy to highlight. And on the kind of the massive scale, it includes things like London's congestion pricing program, or a street tree ordinance in the city of Providence that requires building owners to increase the canopy of trees on their properties to be about 25% of the whole lot.
Okay. And what's sort of the overall message that you're hoping that people who come in here and see this and wander around and take it in, what are you hoping that they walk away with?
Well, I think we're hoping that people will walk away with two things from coming into the show. The first is a better sense of what's actually happening. I think we're all hearing of the doom and gloom of global warming. We're all hearing about the Chinese and Indian economies coming online and overshadowing anything that we can do as a country or individually. And one of the things that we think is really important is that, in fact, there's quite a lot that we can do as individuals, we can do as citizens, and we can do as members of institutions or corporations. The second thing we'd like people to take away is the realization that, in fact, there's a great deal of work going on in this area. I think one of the reactions that people have to movies like The Inconvenient Truth or The 11th Hour, or just living their lives in their daily lives, is that you don't have the sense of what else is happening. You don't have a sense of what your efforts might connect to. And what we found in our research was, in fact, all across the country, all across the United States, all across the world, there's a huge amount of work that's being done, individually, by nonprofits, by corporations and businesses, and by cities, which have really been leading the way in this country, I'd say, for the last 8 years.
Okay, and so tell us a little bit about some of the energy projects. Kind of give us an intro to the topic of energy.
Sure. In the energy projects, we selected 6 projects, and what we're really trying to show are 6 very different ways that individuals or communities are beginning to address the challenges of peak oil and beginning to rethink the way that they're either producing energy or the way that they're saving energy. We'll walk through them together, and we can look at a couple of them. But I'll point out we had a really funny conversation this morning with Majora Carter from the Sustainable South Bronx and James Chase, who's the head of marketing and communications there. And James said, "You know, Charlie, I think this is wrong. I think the age of cheap and unlimited fuel has not come to an end. I think the age of cheap and unlimited fuel is just coming onto the stage." And I think that many of the projects that we're showing today actually might confirm that argument, might confirm this argument. So the first one we'll talk about is SunEdison. At SunEdison, this is really more of a business plan innovation. SunEdison offers turnkey services for clients. So they'll basically lease your roof, install the solar power panels on top, maintain those power panels, and then sell the power back to you in exchange for the solar energy tax credits that you might receive for that. So basically what they're doing is they're working with large corporations, with the federal government, and even with some utilities, and offering them an easy way and a clean way to get more solar power out of their properties without having to change their own business models or without having to change their areas of expertise.
Okay. And so this one is San Francisco. Tell me about this one.
So this one is the project that we're highlighting here is the new carbon fund program that the city of San Francisco is just putting into place. Unlike many kind of carbon offset programs, San Francisco is really honed into the principal critique of those programs, which is that you don't know, it's hard to verify where your investments are going, especially if they're going off out of the country. And so what they are doing is they're using all of the offsets that the city will purchase and reinvesting in citywide programs. So the benefit of that and what they're looking at are basically then will reinforce projects that they're already working on, which include putting solar power panels on a variety of public buildings throughout the city, looking at other kinds of biodiesel and energy offset or energy switch programs for their bus and transportation lines, and helping to create more conservation programs. I think it's a great project. It's a really interesting program that they're doing because it allows them to get the benefit in the city of paying for the of offsetting their own carbon emissions.
And so where are we headed now?
Someplace where there's not a lot of people. So let's go over here to...
From San Francisco to Galveston, okay.
All right, let's go from San Francisco to Galveston. So in the Galveston Array project, what we're really trying to highlight first and foremost is wind energy and offshore wind energy. Because offshore wind energy at this day and age is competitive with natural gas. It's an incredibly powerful source that is ready to come online. Current work by Willett Kempton at the University of Delaware shows that basically with an offshore installation from about Cape Hatteras up to past Cape May, you'd be able to power the entire eastern seaboard.
And there is no moratorium on this sort of offshore development.
Moratorium on offshore wind, except in a few localities. But at Galveston, and the reason we wanted to highlight this one is because it's one of the sort of more interesting proposals that are out there right now. And a company out of Galveston is basically taking decommissioned oil rigs and using those rigs as the base for the turbines. So that rather than having to build new turbines that go all the way down to the seafloor, they're recycling existing infrastructure and allowing that to save them money and allowing them that to put them out pretty far out in the Gulf of Texas and the Gulf of Mexico. The other thing that they're doing, which I think is very interesting but it's hard to see, is that they're using then the offshore pipelines and they're running the electrical cables through those offshore pipelines, which is a major cost saver in these kinds of projects that would happen anywhere else on the coast.
Okay.
So from there we'll go to Toronto. And this is a great project. This is the Benny Farm redevelopment. And Benny Farm was originally a Canadian Army home for retirees and vets. And what's happening there now is that entire property is being reconditioned. And as part of the reconditioning of that and the renovation of those properties, they've constructed a new utility, a cooperative utility for all of the residents. And that utility basically is providing not only kind of a way to get cheaper energy for the whole complex, but then reinvesting its profits into investments in geothermal, energy conservation, and other energy programs for within this affordable housing development. Basically, first of all, creating a cheaper energy source for those residents, keeping it affordable in terms of its operations, not just in terms of its capital investments, but then ultimately using and taking advantage of any of those investments to help actually further decrease costs for those residents. It's an amazing example of what, a simple rethinking of how you pay for your energy and how you cooperate with other people can really yield great benefits for you and your neighborhood.
Do we have a few more?
Well, we could look at one of the more lighthearted projects.
Okay.
Huge sign on the roof made up of bicycle wheels that says
So this is perhaps a bit more lighthearted. This is the Sustainable Dance Club in Rotterdam. And the Sustainable Dance Club is using basically mechanical actuators in the floor so that every step a dancer takes generates power. A few watts, but together those watts basically power the dance floor, power all the lights, and power the music. And while the project itself is a bit lighthearted and may seem a little bit fanciful, similar experiments are going on with the Japanese Ministry of Transportation, where they're looking to see if they could either use these mechanical actuators or piezoelectric crystals to generate power in the subway systems of Japan, and especially Tokyo, where millions of people cross those platforms every day.